Yeah, the Suns lost, but look on the bright side. At least they're going to play a preseason game in China.
Hi, welcome in to the PHNX Suns Podcast, post-game show edition. Yes, we have sad music because yes, the Suns have lost yet again, this time to the New Orleans Pelicans, 126-124. We are the PHNX Suns Show. We are presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app, use the code PHNX365 when you sign up, and find out why whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I'm really tired from tonight's game. I hate losing. I know that we shouldn't full on crash out, but this sucked.
Yeah, I mean this is the worst loss of the season for me. And I say that knowing that the Pelicans got guys back tonight. They got Brandon Ingram back, they got Herb Jones back. They had lost 9 straight. So this was a hungry team. This was a better team. This version of it that we saw tonight than their 4-18 record would indicate. But you still had more than enough to win this game. You had a double-digit advantage at one point in the second quarter, and you could have turned that into 15 or 20 heading into the break, if not for a lot of sloppy turnovers in the first half. You could have extended it in the third quarter and put the game away in that stretch, if not for, again, sloppy turnovers and letting the Pelicans run all over you, basically. Brandon Ingram going off. The defense completely fell off. They gave up 45 points in the third quarter. This was a bad loss, and it does nothing to silence the critics of Devin Booker this season. It does nothing to silence the cries of this team is nothing without Kevin Durant. I don't believe those things to be true, but the evidence was there tonight, and it wasn't pretty. So this is a game they need to move past in emphatic fashion with their back-to-back coming up over this weekend, or those claims are just going to get louder and stronger, and there's going to be more credence to it.
This isn't a game that, they need to hold on to as in oh my gosh, let's just dwell over this and spiral. But I don't need them to move past it. I need them to go back and watch this game and say, look at all the winnable opportunities that you had here. Because Girth Jr. in the chat says we lost to a 4-win team. Okay, it's not that bad because, yes, this team got back DeJounte. It got back Brandon Ingram. CJ McCollum's playing as well. Herb Jones and Trey Murphy are good players, very good players. So it's not that bad, but that, not excuse, but reasoning for the Pelicans winning this game, I feel would be more valid if they came off the jump and just played like the better team. But they didn't. Phoenix played like the better team in the first half and had very clear things that if they just tweaked and fixed, this would have been a blowout, right? Devin Booker comes out hot. You're moving the ball around. You tighten up the turnovers a little bit. You probably carry a 15, 20-point lead going in the fourth quarter. Instead, you come out in the second half, Steven, sloppy. The Pelicans were ready to play, and they never looked back from that point.
Well, they squandered multiple moments where they could have extended leads that they had. First quarter, I'll take it all the way back to then. They had the early game run from Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, and then they squandered the lead that they were establishing at the end of the first quarter within the last 90 seconds of that. And instead of going up into the second quarter, I think they were down 134, 33, 34, 34, 35, one of those two. That should have been a 5 to 6 point difference that you went into the second quarter with your reserve unit plus Bradley Beal in. They end up having to work back uphill, and though they do that, over the course of the game, it just changes the trajectory of things. We saw it again in the third quarter. They have to be better. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no excuses to make. And this is why I said in the pregame, they can't play with their food. And we saw them play with their food after eating it well in multiple stretches in the first half and the second half. And the result is what it is because they were playing with it.
And I mean, Gerald, to your point too, yes, the Pelicans had a reason to really want to win this game, more so than I think the Suns did. They got guys back. They've been beat up a lot this season, literally, metaphorically, whatever you want to say it. But that doesn't mean that the Suns shouldn't have won this game, because there was more than enough. It just was the effort. It was the energy. It was the commitment to playing good basketball and taking care of the ball. And all of that kind of was just like, I mean, it's enough. We'll do enough. Instead of being fully bought in on that and really, I don't know, just like locked in.
Right. This team, especially with Kevin Durant out, especially with as many guys as they currently have out, is not good enough to just go through the motions or to get comfortable when they go up on a quote unquote 4-win team that has multiple players coming back that have missed the last few weeks. Like, this was a hungry Pelicans team, and they eased up off the gas when they started to create separation, and it cost them. Like, we saw Book go off in the first quarter. He had 15 points. The rest of the way, he only had 13, and a lot of them did come in a stretch down the stretch, a lot of them from the free throw line. But, like, looking at the numbers, a lot of these guys chipped in offensively. They shot 51% as a team. They shot well from three. Offense wasn't a problem. The defense continues to be the issue, the biggest issue for me when Kevin Durant goes out. And I think that speaks to, one, how good Kevin Durant has been defensively, that people still aren't giving him enough love for how locked in he is on that end and how much he makes the defense work when he's out there. And two, how much better this team has to be when he is not out there. Because Kevin Durant's 36 years old. He's going to miss some games here and there. We're obviously not getting the 75 games that we got out of him last year. But they have to be able to survive defensively against a team like the Pelicans when KD and Ryan Dunn are not out there.
Well, and that's something that Luis sent us a super chat about. They said, the offense can sustain without KD, but the defense suffers without him. We looked small across the board during the third quarter run by the Pelicans. Thank you for your super chat, Luis.
This is just, it's not something that great teams do. You know, great teams will play worse when they're missing their best player, but they are not going to have games like this. And teams that are going to win a championship, listen, even if Kevin Durant's not injured in the playoffs, he's going to be off the court for some minutes. He's not going to play every single minute. And you might lose a playoff game in the 2 to 3 minutes that your stars are on the bench if you're not all tightened up and you're not playing good basketball. And you mentioned good offensive output, Gerald. We talked about the last stretch without Kevin Durant. You know, it was the other guys and Devin Booker all not stepping up at the same time. It's like, well, you need one or the other. To be honest with you, you got the offensive output from the other guys. Royce O'Neal put in 19 points tonight, shot 5 of 8 from 3, 6 of 9 from the field. Grayson Allen shot 4 of 7 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3, and put in 13 points, 10 assists, and 6 rebounds, right? And sure, there might have been some mistakes at the end of the game by Grayson. There was also a massive 3, which is the reason why this game was even close in the first place. To me, you saw Devin Booker go off in the first. It opened things up. Other people started hitting threes. Then it is back on Devin Booker's plate to take this game into control when it is slipping in the third quarter. And it's something that without Kevin Durant, we have only seen him really do once. And to me, for the standard that I'm going to hold him to, because of how I feel about him as a player and where I think he stands in this league, Steven, I choose to hold him to a higher standard, and he has to play much better than he did tonight, despite still having 28 points.
He didn't score in the second quarter. And that's unacceptable. For one, he wasn't in foul trouble. He wasn't hurt, so his minutes did not diminish in any capacity in terms of what his expectation was. He just didn't score in the second quarter. And though the team went on a run, they need him to consistently put the ball in the basket. I know that's duh analysis, but without Kevin Durant, you need your 1B superstar to be emphatic 1A. And Bradley Beal scored the ball better than him in multiple stretches in this game. Kudos to Bradley Beal because he did his job, but Bradley Beal doing his job doesn't have the impact that it need if Devin Booker's not doing his to accentuate that. And I think a point we made earlier was the Suns coming into this game and not having urgency at times, especially when they're operating without Kevin Durant. And looking at the Pelicans having only 4 wins on the season, newsflash, you won 1 game without Kevin Durant. So if we're looking at an injured team and not looking at ourselves as a team, or them not looking at themselves as a team that's injured and not whole, you're looking at it completely wrong. And that's an elitist mindset that you haven't earned the right to have.
Absolutely.
You got to have a certain level of urgency, and they just clearly didn't have it. There was a slow start to start the game, and then finish the game slow. So things tend to end the way they start, and we saw just that in this game, unfortunately.
And I think for Book, because to your point about the second quarter, like they've, over the last 6 or 7 games, they've gone back to playing Book for the full first and third quarters and then bringing him in about halfway through the second and the fourth. He came in at about the 5:47 mark of the second quarter. So more than halfway through. That's normally around when he comes back in with that minute allotment. But we have seen points where he plays the full first quarter, goes scorching, and then because he sits for 6 minutes at a time, he comes back in and he's not in that same scorching mode at that point. He's cooled off. He's got to find a way to turn it back on immediately when he comes back in. He can't ease his way into the half because we've seen too many times where that happens. Book has a very quiet second quarter, and that gives a team just enough space to make up some ground there and make it a game right before halftime. And then we get into this third quarter that was just absolutely horrendous. So Book's just got to be better. He's got to hit more shots. That's
Is it really just as like more on him than anything? Because earlier in the season, we did see them kind of mix that up, right? He wasn't playing the full first quarter. What are you thinking as far as like, what is the solution to said problem? Is it just Book needs to be better?
I think so. I think he just needs to be more aggressive when he checks in for that second quarter specifically, because I think like the first quarter was fine. He was 4 of 10, so he wasn't shooting the lights out, but he had 15 points, was getting to the line, was making plays, opening things up for his teammates. And then he sits for 6 minutes, comes back in, kind of eases his way. I don't think he scored in the second. He didn't score in the second quarter.
No.
And then the third quarter, he had 5. So like, you need to come back in when you check back in after that 6 minute break. You need to have lots of energy. You need to hit it hard and be aggressive and continue stacking on the 15 points that you had. And I didn't feel that in that second quarter.
Yeah, we could talk a lot about the margins. You could talk about bench players in this game. You could talk specifically about turnovers. And I think those are all valid points. And they were valid points when Kevin Durant missed time earlier this season. But at the end of the day, these basketball teams, and not just at this level, but every level, are driven by their star players. And it's not just the fact that Devin Booker shot terribly from the field tonight after starting on fire. It's the fact that there was no other aspect of his game that felt like he controlled after that. He only had 2 assists tonight. That's not Devin Booker. He is better than that. It's not just, okay, he scored 28 points. No, he shot inefficiently. He had 2 assists. He was not playing great defense either. Like this was a point where you have to look at yourself in the mirror for him and say, if I am going to elevate this team to where they need to be with or without Kevin Durant, Devin Booker has to be better. And I'm only saying that because, Steven, I know that he can. I'm only going to demand that out of him because he can and has shown that he will do it. It just has not been consistent this season.
It hasn't been consistent. I will say not a full rebuttal, but I feel like he controlled the game well enough because he was getting double teamed to where he wasn't getting the direct assist, but he was getting hockey assists, or at least setting the advantage for everybody else to play off of. That's not to take away your point, but I don't feel like he could have done more in terms of generating assists because the flow of the game. But that doesn't mean that he didn't check off all the boxes, because he didn't. He didn't do enough today. And I think, to your point, a lot of it starts with defense. We talked about everybody picking up the baton off of him. If he came out, especially in that second quarter stretch, and he started stamping things defensively that gets them out in the open court, it changes the trajectory of everything. I know that's asking for a lot, but you get paid a certain amount that you do. To whom much is given, much is tested. And that's the barometer the team picks up off of what he sets for them. And they were missing that tonight in particular.
Yeah.
Can we just really quick talk about how they close quarters? Like, we don't have to spend a ton of time on this one, but we can. I know you brought it up, Steven, about how they closed out the first quarter. And then you could even technically say it about the second quarter. Even though they had a 10-point lead, it could have very easily been 15 or 16 points.
Yes.
What is wrong with them closing out quarters this year? Because it's almost every quarter. You could at least pick 1 or 2 a game.
I said that's a margin that all of the contending teams win consistently. The Celtics, the Thunder, whatever might happen through those first or those middle minutes of a quarter, but those final 2 going into a break in any capacity, they're winning those or they're neutralizing it. Either way, if they're at a deficit or they're at an advantage, they're going to go into the next quarter with some type of momentum. That's not something that they've had, and that's something they need to address urgently, because that's where a lot of games that they've won have come from, and that's where most of the games that they lost have come from as well.
Yeah, like good teams close quarters well. They also start quarters well. They gave up an 8-0 run to start the game. They gave up an 8-0 run to start the third quarter. Like, you got to start a quarter well, you have to end it well. And I feel like they haven't done it. We've seen so many times, like not just the buzzer beaters that are like, okay, well, that just took the wind out of our sails at the end of a quarter, but little runs here and there, they add up. And this team consistently gives up those types of runs, and it's demoralizing. Again, it goes to this team is not good enough, especially in its shorthanded state right now, to go through the motions at any point in a game. This is a team that has new pieces, a new coach, is missing key guys right now. You have to play with a sense of urgency at all times, even on the road against a 4-18 Pelicans team.
Well, and I think not worse in the beginning of the quarter runs, but, just as equal to them for me is after that run in that third quarter, it didn't feel like the sense of urgency went up. If anything, it just felt like it stayed flatlined, and that's why they put up almost as many points in that third quarter as they did the entire first half. Because once it saw like the Pelicans saw a little blood in the water like a shark, they just attacked. And this is not a great Pelicans team. Fully healthy, they're a playoff contender. They're a good team. And they were pretty close to fully healthy tonight. But not so much farther up on a level than the Suns that the Suns shouldn't do the same thing. You get punched, you're up double digits at half, and they go on an 8-0 run. If you are in a team in the right mindset, and this also goes to coaching, and we've given a lot of credit to Coach Bud about establishing a culture and getting the guys in the right headspace. Today, going into the second half, they weren't. And then they got punched. And then they got punched again, and they didn't punch back. They just kept getting punched until late. It was too late to the point where they couldn't reestablish momentum on the road in what was a rather annoying environment. That is just, to me, it is unacceptable because it is not like the shots just didn't go in thing. It was I don't feel like you were really urgent enough in this situation. And for a team that started the way they started and is now playing the way they're playing, with or without your best player, you better have that sense of urgency. That's not acceptable.
They needed to play with the same sense of urgency as that lady that was sitting right behind the camera.
God.
At least she cared.
No, there was two different people. There were three of them. There was the Devin Booker people at the beginning, which I support. That's fine. Then there was the lady who yelled the entire first half, and then there was a guy who yelled during some free throws.
They tagged in.
Yes, but thank God she stopped yelling for the most part in the second half, because I don't think I would have been able to handle it. Anyway, we're going to dive more into this game, and we're going to read some super chats on the other side of a quick break. 'Tis the season to switch to Verizon. That's right. Right now, you can get a $200 Verizon gift card when you switch and purchase a select phone on select unlimited plans. So start the holidays off right with a great network and use that gift card to start checking other great tech gifts off your list, like smartwatches, tablets, headphones, and more. Get the 5G network that powers your day, whether you're calling mom or your grandparents on Christmas Day, or watching your favorite PHNX Suns podcast on your way home. Well, watching it at work, listening to it on your way home. Let's be safe drivers here.
Yes.
But Verizon is the place to be. Switch now and get a $200 gift card only at Verizon. Legal disclaimer, $200 Verizon gift card sent within 8 weeks, requires device payment, purchase, minimum retail price of $799.99, and poured in with new smartphone line on postpaid unlimited plans or unlimited ultimate plan required.
I have two pieces of good betting advice for you. Number one, sign up with our friends over at Bet365. Number two, just fade every single bet that I put in our pregame show, and you'll be the richest person on planet Earth. But seriously, Bet365 is the best place to do your sports betting. They pioneered live in-game betting. The app is fantastic. We've used other apps. They just don't stand to Bet365. It is an easy experience. It is smooth. And of course, they have everything from college to pros, even badminton. I bet on badminton. Let you guys know that. And right now, new customers can use code PHNX365 to sign up. Deposit $10 and place a bet of $5 or more. Get $150 in bonus bets. Remember, it is never ordinary at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHNX365 when you sign up. Place a bet of $5 or more. Get $150 in bonus bets. Find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 and over and physically located in AZ. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT-STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov.
I'm glad you got that next step number if you're betting on badminton.
I had like $1.50 left in my account, and I was like, let me do the most disgusting 5-leg parlay of all time, and just went to the most random sports. and just pick the underdog.
Okay.
And 3 out of 5 legs hit.
I was going to say, and you lost?
No, I lost.
Okay.
Listen,
What would you have
if
won?
I'm talking about betting, I lost. All right. Those two things
You
go
said
hand
it,
in
not
hand.
me. Remember that. All right. We do have a few super chats here to get to. Thank you, Psycho Blue, for your super chat. They said, worst loss of the season, all caps, so far.
Come
Psycho
on, dude.
Blue, I'm tired of you. I feel like you're jinxing us.
Yeah, it's
say
on
this,
you, man.
You say this after every bad loss, Psycho Blue. I need you to play better, okay? Also, continue to say Book has the worst whistle of any 2K cover athlete in history. Do you guys feel like that call at the end of the game was the correct call?
I feel like there was contact, but I feel like Book put himself in a tough situation. I think EJ said it at the end of the broadcast. He made a mistake by going back to his left because when he made that move to cross over, it allowed Herb Jones to get his hand on his arm on the ball and disrupt him just enough to where when he got off the shot, he couldn't create separation. It also allowed the second guy to come over, the second defender, and just smother that shot. So I feel like Book should have kept going to his right in that situation. Obviously, hindsight is 20/20. When you're matched up with Herb Jones in that situation, you kind of just have to go. But he should have kept going to his right.
Well, plus that right wing 3 is like the quintessential Devin Booker game winner spot. We went over some of his best shots yesterday. I mean, that's where he really likes to take those. For me with him, the defense was physical, sure, but I always try to think about if the roles were reversed, would I would be celebrating great defense, no foul. So yeah, I mean, no call, you play on. It was a bad shot, bad take, but it's a tough spot to be in, but he's paid to be in tough spots and deliver.
He was indecisive in that moment.
Yeah.
To me, you clear that right wing, whether it's for his step back 3 or fading 3, or just generally to go to that space that's unoccupied. That space is conceded for you to work in. Why are you trying to go the other direction, you know?
Yep.
I feel like that's some of the difference between him and Kevin Durant, if we're speaking to them in the clutch and why the numbers are so different. Kevin Durant benefits from having a 7-3 release point on any shot that he decides to take. But I think there's more concision in terms of his decision-making within that. He's very point A to point B. I feel like there's a little bit more thinking with Devin Booker in those scenarios. He's still a tough shot maker and taker, so he makes a nice bit. But the consistency when you're not sure if you want to get here or there in the moment, regardless of who's defending you, that's kind of what leads to the inconsistency.
I do think, because I think a lot of the criticism, especially during that stretch when they were playing without 2 of the big 3, when he was getting double teamed every night, when he was trying to make the right play, I think some of that criticism was overblown. Yes. I do think in situations like tonight, you see the difference to what you're speaking of. Like Kevin Durant, I'm going to get to my spot. I know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to get there, and there's nothing you can do about it. And obviously having a higher release point, being taller, helps with that. But I think Book sometimes gets caught overthinking in terms of, I'm trying to make the right play. I'm trying to take what the defense gives me. And in a situation like that, when you have 2.7 seconds, you got to go. You got to get to your spot and do the Kevin Durant thing. And I feel like he didn't do that there. I think he was trying to read it too much and tried to go back to his left, and he overthought it.
Is that something that we're seeing more out of Book since he's taken over a more point guard role, more of like a playmaking role? Because I feel like early in his career, he was kind of in the mindset of, I'm going to do this specific thing because I know this is in my bag and I can get this shot off. Maybe it's not as deep as Kevin Durant, who's 7 feet tall and, moves not like he's 7 feet tall. But it felt like when the game was on the line, and I know Espo has shown off all of Booker's clutch numbers, and they're not fantastic. It does kind of feel like there's not this almost like young confidence in it of like, I'm just going to go and do this, right? It's that extra step of, hey, I know that there's maybe another player. There's maybe a better option than this right now. But at the end of the game, sometimes he's got to say, F it. I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to do what I need to do.
I think it's a couple of things. I think Book is one of the more adaptable players in terms of anybody can come here and he can figure out how to play with them. And I think because Kevin Durant is that guy and Book knows that Kevin Durant is that guy, I think mentally, I think he's eased up a little bit. And I think, to your point, especially in a game like this, when Kevin Durant is obviously not out there, he's got to snap back into, I am that guy. I have to be that guy. And I think part of it is also just like the point guard thing and the increased level of talent that he has. Because before, especially when he was younger, it was like, what am I going to do? Pass to Ryan Anderson in the corner? No, like I have to take this shot. Of course it has to be me. Now I think he's got weapons around him, and I think he understands that. So I think for better or worse, he's evolved to a point where he doesn't feel the need to force things. And I think for us, sometimes we're like, nah, dude, we've seen you force things and it work out well. you kind of have to, especially with 2.7 seconds left. You catch the ball, we need you to force things.
He needs to remember that he's the weapon.
Yeah.
Right? Like Kevin Durant's a weapon. Devin Booker is the second best weapon on this team. And even when Kevin Durant's on the court, Book can get in a mode where he's still the biggest weapon out there. Like, he has to remember that.
And that's what I was about to say. That was my favorite thing about when Kyrie was in Cleveland with LeBron, especially when they had the 3-1 comeback and all of the cute stuff that happened with Draymond and whatnot.
Cute.
When they got to those games being in the clutch, which it felt like literally every last one of those games was in the clutch up until the last second of them, it wasn't just LeBron. It shouldn't just be Kevin Durant. How much better would the Suns' offense be when Devin Booker has that instinct? Like, we know he has the instinct, but when he's not conceding, for lack of a better term, because he knows how much of a safety valve Kevin Durant is. I would love to see him tell Kevin Durant, like, yo, watch out, bro. I got this. Watch out. Let me see that. And I would love to see that happen more consistently, because that's something that'll shift the team.
Well, even playing with Kevin Durant, it'll make Kevin Durant's life easier if he does that, because KD's not the type of dude who just needs to suffocate everything and touch the ball for 15 seconds out of a possession. Dude can spot up in the corner, and if Devin Booker's demanding 3 because he's in killer mode, Kevin Durant will take a nice open shot, and he'll hit that.
No one's going to help from over there.
Well, right. And it's to me, it just feels like a really simple solution, but it's so much more complicated, Lindsay, to tell some dude to just kind of flip it. But I think for me, it's like, I feel like it should be easy because he has been, and that person is in there. I feel like it just needs to be like shaken out of him.
Well, isn't that what's supposed to kind of separate you two, like into that stardom kind of role? Is that you can flip those type of things? You can turn it on at the drop of a hat because you're so good. So like, and we've seen it happen. So it's not like we're trying to throw shade. It's
not at all.
We've seen it happen. We
That's
know
why
what
we're
you were
bringing it
capable
up.
of. We would just like it to happen a little bit more this season right now.
And specifically when KD's out.
Yes.
Because we've seen when KD has been out there the last 3 games, it was 31 points. It was 27-9. It was 29-9-5. Like, on decent efficiency compared to earlier in the season when he wasn't shooting the ball well. So like, we know he can play when he's next to Kevin Durant. We know he can be aggressive and pick his spots. The problem has been during these 7 games when you take KD out of the equation, flipping back into that 1A, he hasn't been able to do that consistently. Part of that, I think, was the defenses, but nights like tonight, you just got to be better than 6 of 20. That's it.
Mark R made a point that I was about to make, mostly at least. And that's what, with CP3, obviously, you know, he's not necessarily Kevin Durant in terms of a dominant clutch player, but one of the clutchest players of all time as a scorer and playmaker. Devin Booker had no issue not necessarily overtaking Chris, but putting his own will over a game to where he was like, yeah, Chris, I got it this time. Or when they were at their best, when they were undefeated in the clutch for that one season, it was literally both of them. Chris Paul has 5 points in the clutch. Devin Booker has 6 points in the clutch. The Suns are 14-0 in the clutch, and we're in March talking about this being something that's going to catapult them to the playoffs. I think that's the template for this team. It can't, again, we keep coming back to it. It can't just be Kevin Durant, for as great as he is.
So what you mentioned, Gerald, when you're talking about Book, needs to be in this killer mindset when Kevin Durant's not there. To me, it is becoming a little bit more clear that it is not just something that he can flip on and off. It's still a mode that he can reach, and at some points it clicks easier. So as much as we want to say when Kevin Durant's here, he's 1A, he's the alpha, he's the guy. Kevin Durant has shown that he can get his and fit into any situation a lot easier than Devin Booker. So to me, I'm done with when KD's here, you're going to be a little bit more of a playmaker. You're going to be a little bit more in like kind of relax and see mode and take your spots when you can. And then when he's gone, you're going to step in. Now, Devin Booker needs to keep it $120 at all times now, because if he does that, Kevin Durant will still get his, can still play at an MVP level. And then when it's time for Booker to play on his own, there is no shifting back and forth. Be that guy that we saw you when you were playing with Chris Paul, that we saw you on that finals run. This is not us or even people in the chat saying he's not a superstar. He's not a superstar. He can be, and he has been. And right now he's not playing like that. And that is not okay for this team. And so whatever he needs to do, if it's shifting his mindset all the time, then do it all the time. Everybody else can adjust to you, dude. Even if you're not Kevin Durant, you're still one of the best players in the league. Like, it's not unorthodox to say, okay, we're going to mold our game around what you're doing.
Okay, real quick. Just one time. everybody please be nice in the chat or I will put you in a timeout. Don't play with me.
She's done it to
Jenner,
us. It's not fun.
Quit spamming.
Yeah, don't spam, y'all.
Stop it. That's your last warning. My goodness. All right, now that that's out of the way, one more super chat from Pyro. Pyro said, I'm sick, ... Felt the same way at the end of that game.
Yeah.
It's a really disappointing loss. I was really hoping we could pick this one up and then Saturday's game up, Sunday, give or take, but I feel like you owe us both Saturday and Sunday now, Suns. So only fair.
They owe themselves those 2 games.
Yeah,
now.
but more specifically us.
Yes.
It's about us.
We are the important ones.
That's the whole purpose of this whole thing. All right, we got more super chats and more things to get into from tonight's game. But first, we're going to take a quick break. Desert Financial Credit Union has been Arizona's most trusted, largest local credit union for more than 84 years. They are dedicated to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that make lives better. The Desert Financial team are financial experts who are committed to their members and the community, offering financial solutions tailored to helping real people achieve their financial goals and dreams. You can look to them for checking and savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and so much more. Join a credit union that is committed to giving back to the community and sharing success with its members. Right now, when you open a free checking account online, you're going to get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. Who couldn't use $200 extra right now?
I'll use it,
I
please.
can use it on
badminton.
I can use it on Bet365.
Hey, add
up
that
this
200
negative.
to our betting, man. Yeah, we're in the positive. I'm about to switch up all the vibes, okay? All the negative energy. This one's for you, Lindsay. Dark chocolate covered almonds.
Ah,
Let's
thank
go.
you.
Blue gummy sharks.
Yes.
The hot popcorn.
Yes.
All of
Gerald,
these-
what's Gerald's?
Gerald.
I don't really have one. I like it all.
Gerald likes it all.
Gerald does like it all, and he likes it all at Circle K, the place to go whether thirst needs its to meet its match, whether you need a good snack or you want to save some money on gas, because they do have the Inner Circle, a free membership program, and if you haven't signed up already, you are literally just cutting a hole in the bottom of your pocket and letting all the money fall out of it, because you could save so much. 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. After that, 3 cents off per gallon every day on unlimited amount of fill-ups if you do drive a couple cars, have a lot of people in the family, or eventually that can bump up to 5 cents off per gallon when you use it enough. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions do apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com to reach your happy place and for details.
Okay, more super chats here. Don Davies sent us one. Don, I haven't seen you in
What's
a
up,
minute.
Don?
Good to see you in the chat again. They said, the book we know would have taken over after McCollum threw him to the ground. Now all he does is just take it as if he's a rookie.
Damn.
That's rough. But low-key,
I feel like Rookie Book was giving it to people.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I don't think
You
you take it like a
know-
rookie.
McCollum, what you doing? CJ, that ain't
Silly
you.
guy.
What you doing?
Totally unserious person.
No, absolutely
He
not.
needs to be more focused on the next CBA is what he needs.
He needs to be more
No,
focused
he
on the
needs to
reboot
stay
of Family
the
Matters.
hell away from that. Please and thank you.
He's a try harder.
But
next
I do
time.
agree. I wish Book would have taken over big time in this one. I think we were all very much so let down by what we got from Book tonight, not just in general, but also specifically because it's the Pelicans and like we're so used to a big Book game
Mhm.
against the Pelicans. And I know that we can't expect that every time around, but I expected more than 20 or
I think
28.
28.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot about the extra 8 there towards the end.
Right.
I still expected more than that before the final stretch of the game.
It would have been more if he'd have shot the ball well.
Right.
But we said a disappointing 35 was like our low prediction for Book
Yeah.
tonight. So 28 is definitely in that disappointing category. I feel like, well, that comment was harsh. It plays a little bit into what we were talking about last segment, where it just doesn't feel like he's been in that mode and flipped that switch like he did a couple years ago. So I see where you're coming from, even if it's a little brutal.
Mark R sent us one. Thank you, Mark. They said the Suns have a 123.0.
123.
Yeah, 123, 123.0 defensive rating in games without Kevin Durant. Worst in the NBA by 3.7. Can't function defensively without him. Add Book's double team issues. Can't win.
But some of that is the lack of size that they have when you naturally lose the tallest player and the longest wingspan in terms of your main rotation from that. And I think that speaks to, like, you think about the offensive hit without having Kevin Durant.
Mhm.
The defensive hit I mean, the numbers say it itself.
Mhm.
It's equally, if not more loud when you don't have him on the court or it just generally in the rotation for your team. You lack the rim protection and size. You lack the activity in terms of deflections. You lack some of the switchability. It just all hits a little bit differently in a negative way.
Yeah, and the secondary rim protection has been huge.
Mhm.
The work that he's done on the back line, you feel that absence when you don't have him out there patrolling the basket. And you miss like some of the all-encompassing wing defense. We saw it when he swallowed up. Whose shot was it the other day? That he just stuck with him the whole time and blocked at the 3-point line.
Mhm.
Like you miss those types of energizing plays without KD out there. Their defense has to find a way to survive without him. And to be fair, like Ryan Dunn wasn't out there, but again, you can't be relying on 36-year-old KD and a rookie to carry your defense. You have to be able to survive defensively without those guys out there.
And missing KD means missing more shots, and missing more shots means more fast break opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
D Nice also talked about the defense in their super chat. Thank you for sending it in. They said defense is the concern for the Suns this season. Yeah. We've unfortunately had to talk a lot about it this year.
Bring Frank Vogel back as a defensive coordinator.
Love to turn it around.
That means you have to steal him from Dallas, which
I think Bud just needs to throw a chair. That's all. You
always ask for somebody to
Bud
throw a chair.
Bud was close tonight.
He was.
He was close tonight. I bet you if he threw a chair, that would have lit a fire under one of the Suns players. But whatever.
If you're a Boondocks fan and someone throws a chair, that is not what you want. That means something 2003 Pacers Pistons is going to happen.
Yeah.
That's volatile. That takes it past the level that you
She has just a little bit of toxicity that she wants to see it happen, though. Just a little bit.
I'm sorry. Would you rather them just go out and play lackluster basketball and not put in effort and energy?
No, I think there's
or
a
would you
middle
rather
ground.
him throw a chair?
Do you want a chair on the ground?
I think there's a middle ground between the chair being thrown.
Yeah, well, how long do we have to wait until we get to that middle ground and throwing chairs are a reasonable request?
Wait until Kevin Durant gets back.
I want Mike Budenholzer WWE style to get a chair and run at an official. Okay, over his head, running like this.
Now that might happen.
Just make sure it happens at home. So if you do get maybe a mouse at the palace situation, the fans are on your side. Don't do it at Smoothie King Center where there's a screaming fans galore.
I'm just saying, I bet you'd play with energy next time around. That happened.
You might
I don't want malice at the foot.
Playing with your job
at the
that
foot
point
is crazy.
Soot at the foot.
Anyway,
that's like Shaq, mouse at foot.
Let's dive into some of the numbers from tonight's game, presented by Desert Financial Credit Union, Arizona's #1 credit union, named by Forbes by looking inside the box.
What's in the box?
Well, what's in the box is what I said last week. A lot more to be desired. They you put up this many points. Like, you can't lose a game when you put up 124 points, regardless of who your opponent is. That should be a signed, sealed, delivered win for this Suns team. And that entails everything that was lacking on defense. And to Gerald's point, a lot of that came from turnovers, live ball turnovers, and just general turnovers. You're conceding an advantage to your opponents. And they were seizing that opportunity about as much as you possibly could. And in that, you give them a lot of rhythm as well for a team that was this literally finding their way because they haven't played with their full roster together yet. And this is about the closest as they've been all season. And you see the successes that they enjoyed. I don't think that a lot of that was because of just them doing it off of their own will. I think a lot of that was conceded from the Suns.
Yeah. No, and I think it's kind of crazy because you look at the points off turnovers. The Suns actually had more than the Pelicans, 24-16. But like the Suns have been a top 10 team in turning the ball over this season until tonight, at least. When they're able to keep that number down and not give their opponents freebies and not make those live ball turnovers that were absolutely killers last year and have been killers when they've come up this year, like you don't give up 126 points to this team. So they've got to find a way to keep that down. Like Book and Beal have to be better in that respect. Book had 3, Beal had 7. He had one stretch where he turned it over like 3 times in a row, lost his footing, lost the ball, got stripped. And those are the sequences that really hurt you.
Speaking of Beal, we did get a super chat about him as well from Leo. Thank you, Leo. They said that Beal ankle injury scared me. Low key.
Yeah.
I was like, not again, not again, not again. And not to be that negative Nancy, but it wouldn't surprise me if Beal was questionable and or probable on tomorrow's injury report. So just mentally prepare yourself.
Literally the thought that went through my head later in the game. I'm like, oh yeah, Beal's
Unfortunately.
playing well. I'm like, oh yeah, it's the adrenaline.
This feels like it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, he played through it, but then the next day woke up, it was a little swollen, a little sore, so we're going to be cautious. This whole song and dance again. I'm being really negative tonight.
How could you not be,
this loss
right?
pissed me off a little bit.
It's a bad loss.
It kind of pissed me off.
It's not the end of the world. It is their worst loss of the season in my book. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how they respond on Saturday and Sunday. Because like we talked about this stretch, we said, okay, if KD's out for a week, you have that 4-day gap where you'll probably get him back for these next 2 makeup games the following weekend. You just got to try and go 2-1 over this 3-game stretch. You beat a 4-18 Pelicans team. You win the first night of a back-to-back against a Heat team that's at 500, and then you probably lose to the Magic, who are playing good basketball, second night of a back-to-back. Well, you pissed away one good opportunity here with your first game. Now you have a back-to-back coming up where you need to take care of business against Miami, and you need to play a lot better than your normal scheduled loss against the Orlando Magic on the second night of that back-to-back.
Yeah, you owe us. Remember that. You owe us. Okay, a couple more super chats here. The first one comes from Lonnie. Thank you, Lonnie. They said, we will be better. I'm not even upset about tonight. I mean, I'm glad that you're feeling good, Lonnie. I'm not like ready to crash out, but I am just disappointed by this one. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
We've got another one from Cameron. Thank you, Cameron. They said, do we have point guards? Seems like we don't.
Monte Morris like single-handedly saved the game at one point. So yes.
He was good.
Tyus Jones had 1 turnover. Monte didn't have any. So like Gerald spoke to, like I spoke to as well in the preseason, it's not necessarily about having a point guard because your best players are still going to have the ball in their hands and they have a responsibility not unlike those two in terms of impacting that turnover margin and shrinking that as much as possible. And to that point, the Suns are 1-5 in games where they have 17 or more turnovers this season. That's not a sustainable route to winning games. That's not duh. That's very duh analysis.
Right.
Like the more you give the ball over, the less your chances of winning are. You have to be better collectively.
Especially because the offense was clicking. Like you scored 124, you shot 51%, you shot 38% from 3. If you take off, even 3 of Brad's 7 turnovers, if you take off 1 of Book's 3 turnovers, that's 4 extra possessions right there where you're scoring at a very high clip on those possessions. You win that game. It's as simple as that. You just have to cut a couple of those bad turnovers away, and that's it.
And you heard Book talk about like timely turnovers and some turnovers that aren't as much. When speaking specifically about Jusuf Nurkic at the beginning of the season, it felt like in this game, it was all of the least timely turnovers that you could imagine. So even though it's like, 17, we've seen them have 17 and win before. It was 17 in not the worst possible way, but definitely nearing that side of the spectrum.
Okay, last super chat, and then we'll talk about all your favorite things from tonight's game. So if you catch my drift, you guys will get in on it. If not, you're just going to have to hang around and wait to find out. Trevor sent us one, and they said, I feel like this team solely relies on Kevin Durant. Gotta win.
Yep.
I mean, he is a big part of it. I mean, it is Kevin Durant that we are talking about here, but I agree. Even if KD's not playing, you gotta win, especially games like tonight.
I struggle with this because it's not like when Kevin Durant is out there, like there have been games obviously in the clutch where he's put them on his back, where he's carried them across the finish line. He's not going out there and scoring 50 to 60 points every night. This team, all of these guys that we're complaining about right now, have played a lot better when Kevin Durant is out there. The problem that we need to be focusing on is if you take Kevin Durant out of the equation, if he gets banged up for 1 or 2 playoff games or something like that, and you're in a do or die scenario where they are without Kevin Durant, they have to be a lot better than what we've seen from this 7-game stretch without Kevin Durant. Like you have to be able to function better than what we're seeing without this guy on the court. So I don't think he's carrying them when they're all out there. But when you take him out of the equation, the results have to be better than what we've seen.
The way that this roster is set up, I've always operated with the mindset that in the event that Kevin Durant is the one of the big 3 that's out, they should be at least at 500. Like, if we're looking at the games that he misses in totality, regardless of the schedule, back-to-backs, opponents, whatever, they should be at least 500, meaning breaking even.
Yeah.
So if you start the season 8-1, you go 6 or 7 games without Kevin Durant, obviously you're not going to expect to keep that same level of play, but you should be able to draw even at worst. with all the top end talent that they have.
And that's why we said coming into tonight, you're going to see who they are.
Exactly.
Right? Because you already had this opportunity where you played without him before. This is not the first time that you've had to fit into this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew going into this game, it wasn't like the Spurs game where he's out halfway through and you have a lead, you're able to hold on to that. But it's not like a surprise that Kevin Durant is out for this game. They should have approached this with a completely different mindset and know, like, hey, Kevin Durant's out. This is when we tighten up our turnovers. This is when we put in the extra effort on defense, because that's how good teams win games when their stars are out. You see it all the time. Oh, Team X is missing blank, 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 and blank, and somehow they scrap it to a victory. It's because the guys who are playing know that what they're doing is 10 times more important when their star is not on the floor. It doesn't feel that way for this team. As of right now, it can change. It can get better, but I'm starting to get worried, or the first inkling of it, considering we are starting to see a pattern, right? We are into December. This is no longer 2-3 games without Kevin Durant. Of course, they're going to be better with Kevin Durant. This is a yikes. There are identifiable problems that feels like they should be at least improved upon, if not fixed, and they are continuing to trend in a negative direction. That to me is worrying if that doesn't change sometime in the next month or two.
Okay, I lied. One more super chat from Lonnie. Thank you so much, Lonnie. They said, we needed this game, but the Western Conference is still wide open. We will be okay once we, or if we get healthy. Thank you, Lonnie.
If is good.
It's once. It's once we get healthy.
It's once.
We're going to get healthy.
The West
We're
is
speaking it
definitely
into
wide open,
existence.
They are
Yes,
only
totally.
2 games out of third place right now, despite how bad they played without Kevin Durant.
Very open.
The key is to not lose too much ground in the meantime, especially during these stretches where KD or Book or Beal are sidelined.
Yes.
Got to be better than
Absolutely.
what we've seen.
And I also say, I'll keep this in the back pocket again. Talk about the struggles. They still have the easiest schedule once you get later into the season. So they're going through a lot of proverbial hell in terms of health and whatnot and the strength of their schedule. That should make things easier towards the end of the season, but you can't even get to that point if you're still playing like this without just one of your big three being in the lineup.
Last real quick thing. Also, none of this matters. And if they're healthy when it comes playoff time, then everything going on right now doesn't matter, right? You could be like, oh, well, if you don't play with Kevin Durant. What if Kevin Durant's healthy for the playoff run? The big three is? A lot of these problems don't matter. So there's always that element to it as well.
And if he's not, we knew they weren't going to win a title with Kevin Durant out anyway. So this shouldn't be breaking news to anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Breaking news, though. It's time to go to a break. We'll be right back. Listen, if you haven't checked out Game Time yet, I don't know what you're doing, because we've been telling you for years that Game Time is the best place to get your tickets to games, to concerts, to comedy shows, to theater, whatever ticketed event you are looking to go to. Game Time has you covered. And Game Time also has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It's a phenomenal feature of Game Time. Game Time also has the seat view, which is one of my favorite. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know what your view is going to be like. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account, redeem the code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Thank you.
Easy, quick, and convenient. That is an easy, quick, and convenient way to describe our friends over at Empire Today, but they are so much more than that. They are here to get the right flooring in your home, in your apartment, in your business, whatever it is, in the fastest, most efficient way possible. Now, they're not going to guarantee you the lowest price, because anybody in this industry, in this business, who's offering you the lowest price is offering you the lowest quality product. And if there's one thing you don't want to skimp out on, it is flooring, because you use it even when you're not thinking about how much you use it. They have a virtual floor visualizer to make sure that you pick the right flooring. They can get you same in-home estimates same day, and they have speed and service that you will not get at a big box store. They check all the boxes. It's why we have Empire Today flooring here in Studio A, and we love it. And right now, you can schedule a free in-home estimate today, and all PHNX Suns listeners can receive a $350 off discount when you use promo code PHNX. Some restrictions do apply. See EmpireToday.com/PHNX for details.
Okay, some positives from tonight's game. Two guys in particular that we have to give some flowers to, and then one that we'll ride a Bol-ler coaster with. But first, the big, bright, shiny star presented by Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. We got a dual shiny star. Dual shining stars. We're going to give it to Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen. So Royce O'Neal got the start tonight. He finished with 19 points, 2 steals, 2 assists, 7 rebounds, 6 of 9 from the field, 5 of 8 from deep. And then Grayson Allen, he showed up big time as well with 13 points and 10 assists. Also added in a block, a steal, and 6 rebounds.
Mm-hmm. I thought
this is the bright spot.
Yeah, no, I thought Royce, we talked about the timely turnovers that some of the Suns had in a negative way. Royce made a lot of timely plays in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, we're going to look at the 5 of 8 shooting from 3, and we've said this before. When Royce is shooting threes, he elevates things to a different level in terms of his impact. But he had that one stretch where he knocked down a 3, he got a steal, and then a dunk that capped off like a quick 7-0 run when the Suns were down 8, and suddenly it's a 1-point game again. Like, it felt like he did the dirty work that kind of was willing the Suns to claw their way back into this game. And he had a couple of moments like that. He had another strip on the other end as well that ignited a fast break, I think, if I'm remembering that right. So Royce was great stepping into the starting lineup. We've talked about how good he is with the second unit, but he came in when they gave him the call, the bump up to the starting lineup, and he delivered.
Esco in the chat said Royce went on a 5-0 run, pure hustle, trying to save it.
Yep.
Pure blue-collar hustle.
That was the moment where I was like, oh, I think the Suns are going to win this game because of how much momentum shifted in there. And the only thing that you hope for from this is you appreciate that Royce had a great game. You appreciate that Grayson had a great game. Now it's, can you please continue this? Can you please be consistent? Specifically looking at Royce O'Neal without Kevin Durant, you need him to play maybe not 5 of 8 from 3 consistently, because that is a really high bar for him to clear, but you can't have him hit the lows that he had hit in the previous stretch without Kevin Durant, Steven, because when he's on, especially if he's starting, that opens up so much more that Book didn't take advantage of today, but could in games going forward.
Yeah, and if I could just shift it to Grayson and just talk a little bit about him. The 10 assists, I think it's a little bit of an anomaly, but I think it's a microcosm of when the Suns are moving the ball the way that they need to and how they're doing that. Stemming a lot from Devin Booker seeing extra attention today. They played very well in terms of in their advantage, and that's why they had the 32 assists that they did. The ball definitely had multiple moments where they were popping around, where it was popping around the court. Grayson was often a recipient to score, but also to keep an advantage and making a paint touch after the double team, which completely flattens out the defense, and they get catch and shoot 3-point opportunities from there. His drives have been so good. His defense has been increasingly better over the last week and a half, if not 2 weeks of play, since he's been healthy. And this is the space that they need him to be operating in for them to get to their goals or to do whatever it is they might want to do transactionally down the line.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the 10 assists, I was kind of surprised that number was so high.
Yeah. I had to remind myself real quick.
It was a little fluky. It wasn't out like he was out there, Chris Pauling it up. But no, he's been pushing more towards consistency lately. The shot, the 3-point percentage is slowly starting to climb to where it needs to be. And I thought he played well. Obviously, he missed that 1-3 that would have put the Suns up. That was a big miss. But I think he was 3 for 4 before that. So hopefully, like you said, Steven, this is something that he and Royce can continue to build on, continue to stack up good games like this to where their confidence is high. And, once Kevin Durant is back next week, then you have these 2 role players coming off the bench and continuing to play at a high level. That's going to elevate this team to another level once they're whole again.
Yeah, so flowers to the 2 of them for their performance in this one. Some flowers, a flower to our guy Bol-ler.
A succulent.
Lonnie sent a super chat and said Bol-ler was playing good. Bol-ler was playing good in the beginning.
He was.
Yeah, it was
a roller coaster.
Yeah, it was your
normal.
classic Bol-ler experience.
It was great in the beginning. And then it was not so much.
He was playing great, getting rebounds, being efficient with the shots that he was taking and getting. He had those 2 brutal back-to-back turnovers there right when the Suns had kind of clawed their way back into the game. And I think both of them led to scores on the other end. And one of them was a 3, I think. I struggled to criticize too much because his minutes were limited. Everybody else was turning the ball over as well. So I'm not trying to single out Bol-ler as the reason they lost the game by any means. But this is kind of what we have spoken to in terms of Bol giveth and Bol taketh away. It's a roller coaster. And we saw the positives of it in the first half, and then we saw the negatives of it at a pretty critical juncture when he was still on the floor.
And I totally understand, people who gravitate towards the positives, especially how he brings the positives as well with his length, with his ability to disrupt shots too, defensively, put back dunks, really weird, tough shot making as well that you saw a lot last season.
Mm-hmm.
I get why people would gravitate towards that. And I don't always necessarily disagree when people say, oh, well, he should get, some run. I don't think he played bad enough today to be like, this is a guy that cannot see the court. But I said it to you guys when we were watching the game. We were sitting back and it was like, oh, Bol's playing well. And then it was as soon as just a little bit went wrong, it was just a snowball effect of chaos with him. Yeah, it was all me. No, I said this afterwards.
Wait, so do we not talk about Bol now?
That might be it. Well, no, I talked about it afterwards. I didn't say anything before. We all were talking about, like, hey, look, Bol sighting.
We were.
But when the bad happens, the bad kind of multiplies. And that's the type of thing that when you're on a short leash, a coach is going to focus on that way more than you being 3 of 4 from the field, because there's never been any doubt with the talent level of Bol. It's just about, can you be consistent with it and can you give a good effort? And somebody pointed out in the chat, he still looked like a little tired out there at the end of his run. And I think that's when the mistakes started to happen. And so I don't know if it's a conditioning thing why he's not getting in, if he's showing that in practice. But, I'm not opposed to, break in case of emergency 5 minutes of Bol here and there. I think he's fine playing a little bit more than he has this season. But if you're hinging your bench's success on whether Bol's playing or not, you're not a championship team.
The hard part with Bol too is that if you're more healthy than you were tonight, even if you have Ryan Dunn, right?
Yeah, he's not playing.
Who would you want to take minutes away from to give Bol more minutes? And then when the rebuttal to that is, well, if they don't want to play him, why is he on the team? There's 15 spots for a reason. Like, you have guys who you can tap into when injuries happen if you need to, but they're not all of them are going to play every single night.
Yeah.
Like, that's forever and always been the case.
Right. And I think Mark R said it in the chat. Coaches don't like players that screw up defensive rotations or make poor decisions, even when they're making shots. So Bol was making shots. And I think there was one play where he came over from the weak side and, contested a shot, went straight up, and it was a good contest. The player kicked it out, what would have been a layup. But that was kind of the only example that I saw where Bol made a really good defensive play.
Yep.
He's consistently been on the wrong side of that equation at times. So I think that was part of what Frank Vogel had to get over last season in terms of giving him an opportunity. And he had to, because the rest of the Suns vet minimum guys were not doing anything. This team is deeper and better than that, especially when they're healthy. So I think he got the nod tonight because they didn't have KD, they didn't have Ryan Dunn, and those are the two main guys that are ahead of him at that spot where he's going to get minutes. I wouldn't expect that to continue, even though he made a few shots tonight.
And it would be great if we could get, Bol to be consistent, but it's not the same thing. Like, you can't compare Bol to Devin Booker. The same way that you can't compare, like, Oso to Jokic. Like, and you know what I mean? I'm not saying that's apples and apples on both sides, but do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't take somebody's shooting percentage when they shoot 2 to 3 times a game when they play 11 minutes compared to somebody who's taking 14, 17, 18 shots a game or whatever it means. Like, it's not the same.
And
let's not
totally
play that
different
game.
Role.
Let's just not play that game.
Not accounting for
All
that.
All right. Now that we've done that, let's look at some report cards here. We'll take a peek at the Suns report card first. Not too great in this one. Only checked off 2 of the 5 hopeful requirements here that we've set for them. They did have 30 or more assists. The unfortunate part is majority of them, I feel like, came in the first half.
Yeah,
that third
21.
quarter, the ball just kind of stopped and died. They did attempt over 35 3-pointers tonight. However, they were unable to hold their opponents to 114 or less. They did not commit 13 or less turnovers, and the big 3 did not combine for 75 points.
Nope.
So 2 out of 5, not great, Bob. Thank you real quick to all of our viewers who are joining us on TV. We appreciate you all being here with us. Don't forget to follow the show on social at PHNX_Suns. And of course, as always, the conversation always continues at gophnx.com. Now we'll take a peek at our report card. Also, not great, Bob. We all took L's tonight.
Damn.
Which means I am now at $35.93, $10 lighter. Espo is now minus 35. Eric is now minus 165. And Steven is now minus 181.67.
I think what I'm going to do starting
What
on
are you gonna
Saturday,
do?
I'm going to do a 1-leg bet on Saturday. If I lose, I'm going to go to a 2-leg bet.
Oh.
If I lose, I'm going to go to a 3-leg bet.
Stacked eggs.
And if I continue to lose, I'm going to continue to add a leg on this parlay until I hit.
L is for leg.
That's
You're
what I'm
just gonna
saying.
add a new leg for every L.
You know what that means, Noah?
Noah,
Get to learn minimizing font, but
yeah. Sorry about that, Noah. I know your pain, but I'm
Get
still
ready
gonna
to
do
learn
it.
Comic Sans, buddy.
No. You guys could really use a win, though.
I could really
You
use
could
a win
really use
right
a win.
now.
We have 2 more super chats here. Lonnie sent us one. Thank you,
like that,
Lonnie.
Steven?
They said,
She's
I can't
talking
stand
crazy.
Nacho, but we needed 30 from Beal tonight.
I think every super chat should start with "I can't stand Nacho."
Honestly, we did need 30 from Beal tonight. So
Man,
we're
he
unfortunate we
that
didn't
man
get there.
played well enough for them to win this
Yeah.
game. It wasn't on him.
No, of
Right.
course not.
Turnovers would have
But
been
we
if he
still
took-
needed more
Of
points
course.
from someone.
If he took away 3 or
Yeah.
4 of those turnovers, he might have gotten
Facts.
to 30.
Big
Probably.
fact. Yeah, this is true.
Also, he rolled his
If he
ankle.
would have had 30, it could have outweighed the 3 turnovers extra
Yeah.
that we would have liked to take away.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, whatever it takes.
He could have
Whatever
had
it takes.
25, and that would have been great because they would have won this game.
Yeah.
Or I'm
Way
sorry,
to go,
27.
Brad.
27.
Way
My
to go,
bad.
Brad.
Math is hard.
We're just kidding. We're just kidding. Alyssa sent us a super chat as well. Thank you, Alyssa. They said, sad about this loss, but happy to say I became a diehard today.
Let's go.
Let's get the next game. Congrats, Alyssa.
Love
Thank
it.
you.
Welcome to the fam.
Yes, we're so excited to have you a part of the Die Hard family. Can't wait to get you in the Discord. It's really nice over there. I'm just saying.
Mhm.
If you guys are not diehards yet, you can become a diehard today, just like Alyssa. Go phnx.com. You get access to all of Gerald's diehard level content, including all the writers around the network as well. You get access to the diehard only Discord, discounts on all of our ticketed events and our merch. You get a free item of your choice from the locker upon signing up, plus so much more. So check it out. Go phnx.com. Gerald, are you going to be writing anything for gophnx.com in the near future?
Not tonight. Nobody's going to want to read that tomorrow. So.
Yeah.
I need 10,000 words on the loss, Gerald.
Tell
I
us how
could
you
do that.
really feel,
know
Gerald.
you
No
could.
one would read them.
It'd be a whole
No.
lot of turnover this, turnover.
We'll wait for a more fun topic to talk about. There you go. All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you guys coming out all the time, win or lose, to talk Suns basketball and hang out with us. Hit that thumbs up button if you're here with us on YouTube. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And of course, follow the show on social at PHNX_Suns. You can follow me at Lindsay Smith AZ. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. And you can follow Eric at Eric Ruby with a K. Who wants to take us
I
home?
could do it. If you would like to watch a team that's been winning consistently this year,
Aw.
make sure you tune in at 10 a.m. Arizona time as your Arizona State Sun Devils, America's team. The Sun Devils take on the Iowa State Cyclones in the Big 12 Championship. PHNX Sun Devils, a.k.a. me and Anthony Totri, will be boots on the ground in Dallas. Also a watch party on Saturday, too.
Mhm.
Oh, and then after that, yeah, the Suns also play basketball, if you still want
We
to.
have a watch party on Saturday. I forgot to tell you that too.
double,
Pull up.
double dip at Gila River Resorts and
Pull
Casinos.
up.
Go
Pull up.
phnx.com for all the details.
Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure you can watch the game on the bajillion TVs that they have
Facts.
at Gila River.
In fact, I'm going to say this. If you don't come to Wild Horse Pass on Saturday and the Suns lose,
It's your fault.
it's your fault. So sit with that and we'll see you Saturday.
Everybody point at them and let them know it's
Point.
your fault.
And
You.
also, enjoy basketball. Talk to you guys on Saturday.
We all silly like the mayor.